Chapter 5 Obstacles and Pitfalls. Hunting the I means trying to overcome the only obstacle before awakening to the truth. But how many faces it has! The one which soon will betray itself as a great deposit of obstacles is the so-called mind, with its main qualities, restlessness and dullness. The cardinal remedy has been mentioned, and that is to develop an attitude of unconcerned witnessing. Watch the restless thoughts, and the rushing torrent will slow down. Recognize, watch your laziness, and it will sneak away. The method works, but actually it means to treat the symptoms, leaving the disease, which seems to be the mind, undisturbed. But have a closer look. Try to locate this opponent which goes against the most important decision of your life, that is, your search for the self. Where does the mind come in? Ramana Maharshi says, there is no entity called mind. Because of the emergence of thoughts, we surmise something from which they start, and that we term mind. When we probe to see what it is, there is nothing like it. After it has thus vanished, peace will be found to remain eternal. Then what of thoughts, feelings, and will produced by the brain? Of course not. Science dropped that hypothesis. This is one it once held and declared the brain to be a sheer receiving and reacting organ. Western psychology talks about subconscious regions within the individual as the source of much material for the so-called mind. But there is also assumed a vast ocean of a collective consciousness, which contains an infinite mass of concepts and ideas, subtle urges and passions, holy and unholy, and which is ceaselessly sending out corresponding signals that can be caught by anybody who is just tuned in as a receiver. This hypothesis seems to be confirmed by the fact that important inventions and striking new ideas have turned up in different brains at the same time. Ancient Eastern tradition took notice only of the seeming independence of thoughts and ideas from the thinking person and developed an intricate theory of their roots. These are latent past impressions, hidden tendencies, and suppressed desires, and they called them vasanas. Since we have no direct access to the depths of the subconscious where the vasanas are stored, we can only treat the symptoms, which are the thoughts and pictures, the concepts and ideas which rise into our consciousness. And it is enough when we treat them in the way already mentioned, watching them quietly as they arise and disappear on their own. Meditation without an object brings up more of them than the habitual waking state. Vasanas from a depth of unconsciousness, which is not touched even by meditation, will be settled by dreams. It seems to be the explicit purpose of the dream state to deal with inaccessible vasanas and render them harmless. We need not worry about dream vasanas as obstacles to our sadhana, but must treat their offsprings as and when they appear to make them ineffective. After all, they cling to the personal I only. When that disappears in the search for the self, they too dissolve once and for all. Looking out for other obstacles, we meet another one which can trouble us a lot: our changing moods. We are aware that they change, much to our annoyance. Sometimes we are restless or inclined to flare up. At other times we feel dull or even depressed. And sometimes we seem to be the very embodiment of harmony, peace, and happiness itself. Of course, there always seems to be some reason for it, and this idea is wrong. For in respect to this change of mood, we are merely a biological phenomenon, an organism, simply reacting to some cosmic influence. The Western concept of creation goes along the line or origin, evolution, decline, and destruction, whereas Indian thinkers of yore did not allow a creation out of naught. Nothing remains always nothing. Something cannot come out of nothing. Thus, they preferred the theory of the infinite cycle of an alternately manifest and unmanifest universe. Sattva, corresponding to light, peace, and harmony; Raja, communicating heat, movement, passion, and wrath; and Tama guna, which means dullness, ignorance, stagnation, and depression. These are the three gunas or qualities of nature itself, which are in perfect balance among each other during the age-long, unmanifested period of the dormant universe. Its manifestation into another period of activity starts by a disturbance in the balance of the three gunas and is kept in motion by them. The gunas cause the rhythm in which the universe is swinging, and there is absolutely nothing which can withdraw from their influence. Beyond the gunas is only absolute consciousness, because it is beyond nature. We are not asking the Western listener to accept all and every Eastern theory about God, man, and world uncritically, merely because they are Eastern. We ask him, however, in this case, to examine this concept of the three gunas applied to himself, and he will soon be convinced of its validity, at least as a working hypothesis. Don't all of us know morning awakenings when we are in a truly happy or miserable condition without finding a particular reason for it? And at other times, aren't our poor presumptive reasons found limping behind? The insight into the true nature of our moods as they play of the gunas will be of great advantage in our sadhana, insofar as it undermines effectively our long-cherished feeling of individuality. Aren't joy and sorrow, happiness and misery, suffering and high elation the very stuff of our souls? Where is our individuality if all this is superimposed on some quite impersonal changes, caused regularly by the rhythmic change in the balance of the three gunas? But how can we get control over this amazing mystery, which reveals itself suddenly as a cosmic power far beyond the reach of our poor personal eye? Again, there is nothing which can be done immediately against the working of the gunas on us. But we can renounce the desire to seek and find and even invent reasons for the changes in our conditions, bodily, mental, and spiritual. We can watch the coming and going of the gunas, and each time just make the best out of them. Having once realized the true nature of your moods as being the result of the play of the gunas, you take them no more seriously than you take the rain or the wind. They are not yours, still less you. They will pass. This is the way to go beyond the gunas. The self does not know any obstacles. All of them are obstacles only to the sadhak, the practicing personal I. And there are general rules to be applied to all of them. Learn that the body-mind combination is your instrument. You keep it functioning, but do not ask it about its standard, neither with respect to the body, mind, or spirit. It is indispensable as an instrument for your spiritual intentions, but absolutely uninteresting in any other respect. Don't try to attain something. A sadhana or spiritual practice is meant to remove only. Deny reality to everything, including yourself. It is not you who realizes the self. The self reveals only itself. To whom? To itself only. Don't fight against your I. Every resistance is strengthening the I, because the motive power behind resistance is the will. Don't suppress either, because a suppressed thought, feeling, or intention is bound to rebound. Only watch yourself without reacting, either positively or negatively. In becoming the observer, you are no longer the thinker. You are going to become first a witness, and thereafter pure witnessing, which is not anymore you, but completely impersonal. Then you are practically unassailable by obstacles. Pitfalls are only a peculiar sort of obstacles, insofar as they usually come in disguise, and in advanced stages, when the alert awareness of the sadhak tends to relax. The most harmless among them is the idea that though we are not responsible for all the misery of the world, the famine and wars and suffering, we feel compelled to try to stop it. The problem often takes the shape of the question to the sage. How can the sage be happy in his realization in the face of the desolate conditions of the world? What is he going to do to alter it? The questioner never seems to think how many powerful saints and sages have walked this globe throughout the centuries without being able to help it. If there is a higher power behind the life of the individual, should it not also know what to do in the case of the world? Is it waiting for and depending on you or me for that purpose? Maybe suffering and misery are just the means to remind man that his destiny is higher than that of settling comfortably in this world at his home. A happy person is seldom keen to question his or her situation. Of course, everybody should stretch out a helping hand to anybody in need with whom he comes in contact, and that is just what all saints and sages have done. And every spiritual aspirant will do when he is keen to remove the ego-ness, the false I. If only everyone would try to care for poverty and misery in his immediate surroundings, all the misery of the world would have been removed long ago. Why is it not done? To be busy theoretically with the social reform of a country or the world is only too often the means to escape from the responsibility to reform oneself first. There is another rather harmless mistake which happens regularly to beginners. Many of them are blessed with various glimpses of the higher life which they have entered. These carry the stamp of a genuine change of consciousness. And of course, the spiritual aspirant is happy and convinced that he has made real progress. There is no harm in it, because he soon has to face the fact that his experience is fading away, never to return. When this happens again and again, he learns to understand these sparks as what they are, glimpses from another dimension, which want to teach him to discriminate between the different dimensions, but which also lure him on in the spiritual endeavor. They only become a pitfall when he, by vanity or impatience, gets stuck in one of them, taking it for final realization. Then his further progress is blocked. The mark by which this pitfall is recognized is I have realized. This I can only be a wrong I, because it is not the I that realizes. The duty of the spiritual aspirant is to watch himself ceaselessly. He has to know what is going on within himself. There is a serious risk in doing this only when he looks too much at others. When he does, his personal I at once makes comparisons, and the result will be, I am holier than thou. With this idea, he gives his personal I a strong chance to develop into a spiritual I, which is much worse than his original, quite ordinary I, strengthened as it is by all his previous spiritual effort. The result is a spiritual pride. The worse, the more advanced the spiritual aspirant has become, because his attainments serve only to confirm his right to be proud of his success. But even if he perceives the gentle voice from within, warning him against this trend going on in him, and reminding him of the secret of real attainment, silent humility, and even if he is quite prepared to accept the warning, there is still the risk that the cunning ego now is concealing itself behind his pride and his humility. There is only one remedy against these and all other pitfalls on the path to realization, and that is alert awareness, relentlessly focusing on the treacherous ego, the false I. Luckily, the spiritual aspirant is not left alone in his secret struggle against himself on his lonesome journey towards his high destination. How could he ever reach it, were it not already within himself? And it never fails to send signals of warning when the traveler is nearing a pitfall or has even been caught by one due to inadvertence. His is a journey like that in fairy tales, when the hero has to go through many adventures, to fight against many enemies and even demons, to win the princess at the end. The further he proceeds, the mightier the obstacles. The most cunning pitfall on the path of the spiritual aspirant is the last one, hidden in realization itself. The first revelation of the self is temporary. As the Maharshi said, jnana, or true knowledge once revealed, needs time to steady itself. The danger is not in the sliding back. It is natural for most spiritual aspirants and is met quite naturally by continuing one's practice faithfully, which in its turn will lead to further revelations of the self, until finally there is no spiritual aspirant left, but the self only. If, on the other hand, the spiritual aspirant tries to hold on to that first revelation, in spite of his inner guide warning him, that is, who is holding on, then the ego, I, slinks again in where the self is veiled, and again distorts the revelation of the self into the cry of victory, I have realized. Blindfolded by the bliss of the final success, whose success? He never stops to scrutinize his condition and thus never finds out the truth. That is, he became a yoga brahsta, one who has fallen out of his yoga. The new and definitive disguise of his ego, I, is the guru, and this last and most powerful pitfall never releases him, because he never recognizes that he is its victim. There are nowadays many whose guru pitfall caught them even much earlier on their path.